We go and grab a quick bite.
We watch a movie, then fight. We're the Fast Food Film Friends. You're listening to Fast Food Film Friends, the podcast that towers over the rest, and just like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, keeps doing the same things over and over again.
This week we'll be talking about Skyscraper, the latest entry in the Dwayne Johnson Goes to the Big City franchise. And we'll be eating Taco Bell's Nacho Fries Supreme.
From IMDb, the plot summary of this phenomenal movie, Skyscraper, reads as follows. A father goes to great lengths to save his family from a burning skyscraper. They really didn't elaborate too much there. Straight to the point.
And speaking of great lengths, from TacoBell.com, we took our new crispy and boldly seasoned fries and topped them with a hearty portion of seasoned beef, diced tomatoes, reduced fat sour cream, and the ever-popular nacho cheese sauce.
Wow, I like that they reduced the fat in the sour cream.
When we chose the food for this week, we were thinking to ourselves, we don't want too much fat.
How can we eat something and it not be too hard on our bodies? Exactly. That reduced fat, really, when it comes to meat and cheese smothered French fries, that reduced fat sour cream really goes a long way.
It makes a difference.
It sure does. Now, going into this movie, we've reviewed together the last Dwayne Johnson movie. He's probably been in 6 more since Rampage, but...
Yeah, Rampage was actually our first review.
And now, oddly enough, this is our first double-digit episode review.
I think that every milestone episode has to be
Dwayne
The Rock Johnson movie.
I think you're right. And luckily, we bet on the right horse, because he's not going to stop cranking this shit out for decades. Now, before we jump into this latest and greatest Dwayne The Rock Johnson masterpiece, I think we have just a little bit of time for us to sneak in some Nimble news.
Indeed.
Nimble News.
Nimble News is the part of the show where we review all things new as quickly as we can do. New music, shows, purchases, experiences, or even new food or movies that we don't have time for in our main discussion. Kevin, are you ready?
I am 100% ready.
And go.
This week I finally got around to listening to the new Gorillaz album, titled The Now Now. I've always been a big fan of the Gorillaz, and if you have been as well, these new tracks won't disappoint, as they stay pretty true to their style, but also, they don't really do anything to stand out. Probably worth a listen if you can stream it for free.
The 5th season of Arrested Development, which recently arrived on Netflix, is a slight improvement compared to the disappointing 4th season from a few years back, but the weird political undertones of the show have pretty much sucked the fun out of watching it altogether.
I started reading John Hodgman's new novel Vacationland this week, and at just a quarter of the way through, I've laughed more than I have listening to every episode of this podcast. If you liked Hodgman during his stint on The Daily Show or his stand-up, you will love this book.
I watched the Paul McCartney episode of James Corden's Carpool Karaoke series, where the two of them go on a journey through Paul's hometown. Although I'm not that big of a Beatles fan, I was really touched by many moments throughout this episode, and it illustrated the power of music so well.
I binged Season 2 of Queer Eye for the Straight Guy this week. As a big fan of Season 1, I went in with very high hopes, and although there were a couple of standout eps, overall, I think I'd rather rewatch Season 1.
I watched Blockers, a comedy about 3 parents trying to stop their kids from losing their virginity on prom night. It's got an excellent cast, tons of hilarious moments, and a meaningful story that delivers a surprisingly heartwarming message. I was very impressed.
I was in line at the grocery store and saw a pack of caffeinated mints in a package shaped like a AA battery called Rally Energy Mints this week. I picked them up as I love caffeine but don't enjoy drinking caffeinated beverages. The texture, taste, and effect from caffeine were across the board terrible. If you enjoy eating chalk that tastes like shitty toothpaste and enjoy the same amount of energy you get when you stub your toe and scream profanities, give them a try.
Drake's new album Scorpion contains a handful of enjoyable tunes, but sifting through the 25-song tracklist to find them is barely worth the effort.
I listened to Childish Gambino's 2-track release Summer Pack, and although I enjoyed both songs, the lyrics were pretty sad.
I saw Sicario: Day of the Soldado, and despite some solid performances from Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin, the film was inferior to the original in every single aspect, and the story's unsatisfying conclusion tries way too hard to set up yet another cash grab sequel.
Well, that's all the time we have for Nimble News. Let's dig in to some cheesy, meaty, beefy nacho French fries.
Now, my first observation is that we got the nacho fries supreme, which come in a little tray, and we also got a side of nacho fries so we could try them on their own with the nacho cheese. I mean, honestly, both of these are kind of pathetically small.
Yeah.
The side of fries, I'm estimating like 16 fries.
I would say 18, but yeah, sure.
Okay, we'll go 17.
Okay, middle of the road.
And the tray for the nacho fries supreme, also definitely not like a main course.
No, about
item.
2 decks of cards next to each other.
Taco Bell does also make, I forget what their term for it is. They make a
Bel
larger
Grande, maybe?
Bel Grande, yeah, a version of this that's just bigger.
Dump truck
so
size. Dump truck
maybe
size.
that one would be enough to satisfy it, but we'll see how it tastes. Let's go for the
plain fries first, I think.
Yeah, let's go for one of these plain fries and the cheese first.
I will say the nacho fry supreme looks disgusting.
Absolutely, yeah.
So these plain fries, I think, are going to be where it's at.
Now you dabbed yours in cheese. I doused mine.
That's the lactose intolerance coming out. Have you had nacho fries before?
I never have. This is my first time.
No, I'm not going to lie to you. I've tried them before.
Okay.
And every single time they have been just as damp and soggy and flavorless as these current ones that we are putting in our mouths.
They're slightly thicker than maybe your average fast food French fry.
Yeah.
And got a little bit of spice. You can see that orange spice on it.
I see the orange spice, but I get none of the spice.
Yeah, I mean it's very little. And then dunking it in the cheese. If you've ever dunked a normal French fry in the nacho cheese, this is basically the same flavor.
Or if you've ever tried to put out a fire with nacho cheese, you know that it really takes the spice right out. Very practical stuff, but not great on soggy fries, I have to say. I'm just not wild about them.
Speaking of taking the spice right out, I did not like this movie.
I was actually surprised probably about halfway through with the fact that I was still somewhat engaged, but then about 75% of the way through I had fully disengaged and was just laughing at things.
Now, I was right there with you. I agree with that completely. That is almost more disappointing that I was actually kind of engaged.
Yeah.
Because I was ready to hate watch this movie.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I was ready to go in and just laugh at the ridiculousness, and there were a few moments when I did laugh at how stupid things were. But there's actually like a bit of good in here.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed a lot of like the special effects.
Yes.
The design of things. It's like this sequence early on in the movie where it's like this animation showing how amazing this skyscraper is, and I was like, wow, like this is like an actually somewhat high budget movie.
Yeah. I think if they would have had a different actor, different ending, just maybe some different dialogue, definitely different dialogue, I think this plot could have been a phenomenal movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's like a few specific things that could have been done, small things as far as script issues that could have drastically improved this film. And we're going to get more into this in the spoilers, but the villain's plan is just like, it's just terrible. Like, it's so stupid. But like, this could have been written in a way that the villain's motive was actually plausible.
Yeah.
Like, this could have been done. Even though the idea of like, oh, Dwayne Johnson's got to get his family out of a skyscraper, like, it seems absurd.
It is.
But like, the pieces are there. It could have been something actually enjoyable that actually, I could have like, there's parts of this film there's just like emotional beats where, you're sympathetic with Dwayne Johnson and his love for his family.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 or 4 moments where you're like legitimately worried about the safety of him or his wife or his kids.
Yep.
And like, if the plot of this film had just been less dumb, those moments actually could have worked.
I think it was just the motive of the bad guy is just, there are so many infinite ways he could have gone about accomplishing the goal that he wants to accomplish without having to set fire to his skyscraper.
Yes.
It is absurd that he gets to the point where he's like, well, that's the only way. We got to torch this skyscraper and then jump out the top, and that's it. It's like, no.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we should save this for our spoiler discussion in a little while, but it's a really bad plan.
Yes.
There's also a handful of moments where there's just like this painfully obvious foreshadowing early on in the movie. Like, there's at one point, Dwayne Johnson is being shown this room in the skyscraper.
Oh my God!
And as soon,
started on this room.
As soon as you see it, you're like, why would this room exist other than for an action movie climax scene?
Absolutely.
And like the second you see it, you're like,
Absolutely.
well, we're gonna come back here at the end of this movie.
Oh my God! They open it up and it's at the top of the tallest skyscraper in the world, dwarfs the Burj Khalifa 3 times the Empire State Building, and they call it the Pearl because at the top there's a lovely pearlescent ball that Dwayne gets a nice tour of, and
Sorry, that was Dwayne?
it's Dwayne Hansen, I believe.
Okay.
But he's up there and he's like, it's the eighth wonder of the world because we put in all these screens. And then it just literally turns into like a funhouse mirror room. Like, I couldn't believe it.
No practical reason for this room.
None whatsoever.
Another moment that was just like shoved in your face, like this is going to come back later in the movie. There's this like awkwardly long conversation between Dwayne Johnson and his wife about fixing her phone.
Yes.
It's just like in any normal conversation, this would have been like a 10-second little like
should we
back and forth
reenact what it should be like this.
Hey, my phone stopped working.
Oh, have you tried turning it on and off again?
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
that's it.
Right,
done.
Instead, it's like a 4-minute scene. That conversation.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's all these right off the bat. I was like, all right, I see where this is all going. Mm-hmm. But like this movie does at least it's expedient in the fact that it gets to the point pretty fast.
It does.
So if you've seen any trailers or posters for this film, you know that this like iconic moment in the movie is when Dwayne Johnson is on a crane and he jumps to the skyscraper.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's plastered over all the marketing. That's all I knew about this movie was that Dwayne Johnson jumped from a crane to a skyscraper. Mm-hmm. And that scene actually happened surprisingly earlier on than one would think.
I'd say halfway?
Yeah. And I think that, this movie doesn't beat around the bush. It gets the action very fast.
I will say it also doesn't beat around the bush in the fact that every time the bad guys are going after something, it's just like automatic weapons kill everyone in the room. Like, that's their method. Like, they also don't beat around the bush. Like, the bad girl at one point walks into a room and just goes... And everyone looks at her, and then her guys just shoot down like 20 people. Like, so many people get shot in this movie. It's absurd.
Yeah.
And it's all just automatic. Like,
but, and see, the movie is PG-13, so, like, we don't see these, like gory shots of everyone being torn to pieces. No. You just hear automatic rifles, and then everyone's on the ground.
It's, like, really well-acted laser tag, basically, is what it kind of plays as. But it definitely doesn't beat around the bush. And I think it starts off, and this is why I liked it from the get-go. I'm a Minnesota boy. And it starts off in a snowy Minnesota cabin, and it reminded me a lot of my family's cabin. But it quickly goes from a nice snowy afternoon to a hostage situation.
That's right. Because when you were 7 years old, you were held hostage by your father.
And Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson saved me. And I don't think this is spoiling much, because another thing you know from most of the posters or the trailers is that Dwayne's got a fake leg.
Yeah.
One issue I took this opening scene in Minnesota. The one issue I took with it is it's like a hostage. A dad takes his kids and wife hostage, and it's like they send in the most elite Army Rangers on planet Earth. They rappel down this cliff and literally just blow a hole in the side of his cabin instead of like bashing a door down or like throwing a flash grenade through the window. They literally send in these people who look like they're straight out of I don't even know what.
This is what would happen if that guy took like the president's daughter hostage.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know, didn't make any sense to me. But Dwayne, of course, is a part of that elite team, and thinks he's saving the day. Tells the guy it's over. But man, it had just begun.
I thought the credits were about to roll.
I did too. Big bang, and then roll credits.
So Dwayne Johnson, he used to be a professional wrestler. He's got the biggest guns around. And that's that's what he's known for. Every movie he's in, he's like this ripped action hero.
Yes.
This movie kind of seems like it's like, oh, what if we took this big strong action hero and then made him disabled?
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. Like how it's a
twist.
Yeah, that part of the premise is actually like kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
And then there's this like absurd scene.
I hope you're talking about with his wife. Yes, I hope you're talking about with his wife.
He and his wife have to work together. And she's doing her own thing, saving her son. And all that Dwayne Johnson has to do is just hold these cables.
Be a suspension bridge.
All he has to do is just sit there and be the strongest human possible.
Yeah.
And so he's just like flexing so hard in the background while there's stuff happening in the foreground. And it's just this like
bursting apart.
It's like this bizarre, corny visual. That I could not take it seriously.
That part, no, absolutely. He said, "I'll just hold the bridge up." It's like what he literally says. And it's like it's a wire suspension bridge, and you can't just grab those. But he does. He's got the muscle for it. I thought you were going to refer to my favorite line, probably in the whole movie, At the very beginning, he's getting ready. He's talking to himself.
I think
in the
I've
mirror.
also had that written down in my notes
Good.
as something to mention. Yeah, go on.
Good. He's getting ready in the mirror. He's kind of hyping himself up. He's practicing his. Are they in Hong Kong?
Yeah, he's practicing his Mandarin.
Okay, or Cantonese. I can't be sure. And he says to himself, the first of many times Dwayne Johnson talks to himself in this movie, just to get a laugh. He says, "Screw it, I'm just going to high five the guy." But then he's taking his pain pills for his leg, and he's kind of moaning in pain a bit. And his wife walks in and is like, "What's going on? Are you all right?" And he just goes, "Leg stuff." Just leg stuff.
This movie, at multiple points, this movie was actively a parody of itself.
Yes, absolutely.
They had to have known when they wrote these lines and these moments. They are just straight up making fun of this movie.
Yeah. It wasn't like, phantom limb syndrome, or like, really it's just...
leg stuff.
Leg stuff.
And so he didn't meet his wife until after he lost his leg, and his kids are maybe around 10 years old.
Yeah.
This happened 10 plus years ago.
Still
and it's
leg stuff.
But because we as the viewer were being cut from the moment he loses the leg to now, it's fresh in our mind. And so to him, he's like, leg stuff. It's actually been over a decade.
One thing I noticed about this movie is that he takes such a beating. I counted double-digit concussions that he received in this movie, at least double-digit concussions. And I just realized now, the only reason he powers through all that is because of a crippling opioid addiction. And I think he's just popping pills this entire movie. That's what it seems like. That's the only way somebody can get beaten and go through so much terrible pain. The whole movie is just him getting basically run over by a freight train over and over again.
Yeah.
And he's just fine. Walks away at the end of it.
I mean, he's a human stone. He's the Rock.
Oh my God,
you can't keep him down.
He must be.
He's way too charismatic. There's these moments where he should be overcome with emotions and try not in the right mind, but he instantly just says some clever little one-liner, and I'm like, damn it! Why do we have to do this over and over?
I think there's a lot of that, but I think the one thing that this movie is mostly about is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson pushing himself over a ledge like you would after you've been treading water in a deep pool, and you pull yourself onto the ledge and out of the pool. He does that about 47 times in this movie.
Yep.
Whether it be windows, fire escapes, trees, bridges, who knows?
Well, his upper half is intact.
Yes.
So thankfully, I can make up for everything else.
Man, he doesn't pull up in a half, I'll tell you that much. But so many times he does that same, get your one leg over, and then he's at the top. And it's they couldn't get enough of that angle, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, this is a very, very vertically
oriented movie.
Yeah. There's a lot of these, these struggles are just based on him getting higher.
Yeah. And I just don't... The strength that he must have. He literally just, does so many pull-ups in this movie. He pulls himself up the side of an industrial-strength crane. The elevator's broken, and he just... After being in, 5 fights, and at least 3 concussions by that point, pulls himself up the entire way. And it takes the other people, 2 minutes in an elevator to get up there. Man... Just some power. They really gave him too much strength. I think they could have toned it down a bit. Let him use the elevator, in my mind.
Speaking of things being over the top, we should probably dig into these nacho fries.
I'm looking forward to some reduced fat sour cream.
I'm trying to get a bite with everything in it.
Now, I wish it wasn't fries. I wish it was just on a tortilla.
Yeah. I mean, this is the most standard Taco Bell ingredients. Mm-hmm. On top of disappointing fries.
Cardboard-like fries.
Yep.
God, those fries. It's if you're going to do nacho fries, hit them hard with some seasoning. I don't understand why they went so weak and why they don't know how to fry them. Fry them until they're done.
Here's my bone to pick.
Can you tell I'm angry about it? I'm literally angry about it because it's such a missed opportunity.
Taco Bell works with Doritos. They have Doritos Locos Tacos. Why don't they just make Doritos nacho fries that are literally the Dorito recipe of orange dust?
Yeah.
Coat these fries in that.
People would love it.
And that would probably be delicious.
I just don't understand why they don't cook them well. Do they not have enough people not complain that these are soggy and shitty?
And this is a topic for a much bigger discussion, but fast food French fries kind of baffle me sometimes because every restaurant does them pretty differently.
Yeah.
And some of them do it so right and some do it so wrong, and I'm it can't be hard to figure out how to do this. Like,
Spend the hour to perfect it in your test kitchen.
I don't get it.
Don't just be like, all right, we got the fries. Well, should we think about how to fry them? No. 10 seconds.
Like, if they were just a bit crispier
So much better.
and the seasoning just had some more flavor, these would be fine.
I agree. It's upsetting. Just a missed opportunity. And I don't know if it's Taco Bell doing it wrong or a bad supplier of fries. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, the beef's fine. Who doesn't love some terrible nacho cheese? Tomatoes are gone. They're lost in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, Taco Bell tomatoes are completely void of flavor.
Yeah, just like their fries. But it's not like I hate the flavor of the rest. It's just you get that texture of the fry in here.
Yeah.
And it's just, ugh.
Yeah, like the beef and the cheese and the sour cream, it's fine. It's Taco Bell's, it's their meat and potatoes, so to speak.
Oh my, except their potatoes are garbage.
Right, yeah.
I would say, if I had to give one character from this movie the seasoned beef first place spot of this, it would be Neve Campbell.
I agree. She's by far the highlight of the film. Like some of the small handful of moments of these like action scenes I was actually into
Yep.
were the ones where she was doing stuff on her own,
Yeah.
or with her family.
Yep.
I think that she was actually like more fun to watch than Dwayne Johnson for the most part.
I agree. Well, you know Dwayne Johnson's going to pull himself up over whatever ledge he needs to. There were a few close calls for him, but luckily he had that leg to grab onto. But I thought she was just a good actress. I thought she played a good mom. She played a good wife. She was kind of cute, endearing. I haven't seen her in a long time, so I was very excited because I had a big crush on her when I was a kid.
I could tell you were kind of biting your nails whenever she was in danger.
I was. I care about Neve.
So before we move on to our spoiler segment, one last thing I want to say about Dwayne Johnson.
Yes.
His tattoos,
They're so distracting.
they take me out of the movie
Well, it's
every single time.
It's like he's playing the character from Moana in every movie. When I see those tattoos, that's what I think of now.
I think what's so weird about it is that, like, there's hardly any actors who have, like, lots of prominent tattoos. Usually if they have tattoos in a movie, it's like they'll cover them up, or maybe it's like part of their character, like they're fake, you know?
Yeah.
And because Dwayne Johnson's cover like a third of his upper body,
Which is
it's
like
on a
14 square feet of space because he's such a large man.
right, and like, okay, if you get Dwayne Johnson in a movie, you're doing a shirtless shot.
Absolutely.
You're doing at least one,
Or at
maybe
least a
three.
torn shirt.
Oh
Or-
yeah,
or
at
he's-
least half a shirt.
He's definitely going to be wearing a dirty Henley with the sleeves pulled up, and you're going to see some of that chest regardless.
And I was trying to think of why it takes me out of the movie so much. I think it's because like tattoos are this thing that are like to people, tattoos on their body are this like it's like this personal thing that like
It's a unique identifier.
yeah, like it has to do with you as a real person. So like when I see an actor in all these movies playing different characters, like in Jumanji, he's this 16-year-old girl, and in Rampage, he's like this sweetheart who likes monkeys.
Yeah.
And he's a different person. And then every movie
Same tattoo.
shows his tattoos, and I'm like, oh wait, this is actually Dwayne Johnson.
I remember when he got that tattoo, because he got this huge tattoo at one point, and there was articles everywhere like, Dwayne's not going to be in any movies anymore. Like, there goes his film career. That tattoo's way too distinguishable. And so now I think he just does it to be like, screw you guys, I'm Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I guess
yeah,
it's like his
because
signature.
there's no other reason. Because think about how easy it would be to cover it up.
It would.
And there's no reason that every character in the last like 6 movies he's had this tattoo in needs that tattoo or would have that tattoo.
No.
There's just no reason. And in this movie, he's like he was in the military. Then he was I don't even know what he was. He's like a security contractor now.
Yeah.
So he analyzes buildings for their security. But
He apparently has a lot of authority
Yeah.
because he is given a lot of trust based on like a 5-minute presentation.
His presentation is one slide, or at least all we see, and it's 5 points like exterior, interior, security, and it just says like approved, 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 approved.
Like what criteria is he basing this on?
And they were just like, great job, you've got it. Here's access to everything.
Oh my god. All right, we need to save this discussion for spoilers
that's
because I have a
fair.
lot
That's
to
fair.
say about that. But do you have anything else to say to the people before we move on to our spoiler segment? Like what did you take away from this film?
I took away, I hate to say it exceeded expectations. I had low expectations, but the fact that I was engaged still halfway through, and I do think there's some merit that was just done in a cheesy way. Not the worst movie in the world. Maybe wait for DVD, But
Yeah.
rent it.
Would certainly not rush out to any theater to see this film. But I agree. I mean, I didn't hate this movie. Like, there was some stuff there to love. There was a lot of cool special effects, like the different portions of the building,
Yeah.
and like the...
I also thought his leg was pretty well done. I don't know how they do that. Like when he's put on his leg for the first time in the bathroom, I was like sitting there staring at the shot, and I was like,
Yeah, like the special effects of like prosthetics. Yeah.
yeah, kind of neat.
If you're here to watch Dwayne Johnson in a big futuristic burning building,
Get 34 concussions.
then it's for you. So the Nacho Fries Supreme. Give me your thoughts on those.
I've never had the Supreme, but every time I've gotten nacho fries, I've been disappointed. The Supreme helps because it drowns out the terribleness of the fries with nacho cheese, reduced fat, sour cream, tomato, and seasoned beef, which are all up there in my book. More of a full fat cream guy myself, but you work with what you got. Taco Bell doing their part trying to trim down this nation that we live in. But no, don't buy them. Just don't. Wait till they come out. I think, like you said, they will come out with a Doritos version eventually.
Hopefully.
Wait till they come out with a more seasoned one, or let's just start a movement and get them to cook them to completion.
Hashtag put the Doritos dust on your fries, please.
Hashtag, or at least cook them to completion.
Yeah, I'd say if I had to rank every menu item I've ever had from Taco Bell, this would be in about the maybe like the 10th percentile. Like this is
Very low.
Not very good.
Yeah.
If you want some beef and cheese and sour cream, you can get it in like 60% of their menu offerings, and you do not want it here.
No.
Nothing about these fries is redeemable, in my opinion.
Nope.
Stay away. So those are our thoughts on Skyscraper and the Nacho Fries Supreme. Now, before we move on to our spoiler segment, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Did you lock eyes with the woman at the grocery store for longer than the standard 1-second glance, but didn't get a chance to say hi? Were you sure that was your soulmate who waited on your table at Applebee's but were too embarrassed to say anything in front of your wife and kids? Did the angel you've been longing for descend straight out of heaven and land right on the sidewalk as you were picking up the poop from your 2 miniature Yorkies, but you just didn't have a free hand to wave with? Well, you're going to love Craigslist Missed Connections section. You can post an ad for every person you think may have been even just barely interested in you to see if they were truly the one. The best part is, there's no downside. If they don't see the ad, at least you put yourself out there, and if they do, you know they're just as creepy as you because you know they're habitually checking for misconnections on Craigslist. So find that love that got away that you think maybe, sort of, kind of, could have been if you had basic social skills on Craigslist Misconnections.
And we are back, and it's now time for our spoiler snack segment, the part of the show where we talk full spoilers about the movie, talk the ending, every detail, we give it all away. The beginning, too. Very good point. And while we do that, we eat a snack. And this week, what are we eating, Kevin?
We are eating Taco Bell's caramel apple empanadas. It's a cross between a baked and deep fried apple pie.
I've had these countless times. I've had caramel apple empanadas, I mean, probably hundreds of times in my life.
That's a lot of empanadas.
I love these. I love these. I love these.
Okay.
And I cannot wait to take a bite out of it.
I've probably had them 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
I'm a fan.
Yep.
Where would you say this ranks in comparison to your favorite repulsive-looking snack, the cinnamon bites from Burger King?
Those are from McDonald's.
Oh, my God.
Here's the thing. Caramel apple empanadas are a very consistent treat. Every time you get it, you get it in the same temperature. You know exactly what you're getting.
You've never looked at me so seriously with such a serious stare on your face and just no emotion behind your eyes.
The McDonald's cinnamon melts are the most inconsistent sweet treat that I have possibly ever had. Okay. Sometimes you go and it's like this thing has been like sitting under a counter for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't even pull it apart. Sometimes you go and it came right out of the stove and it is just absolutely delicious.
Right out of the stove.
So, I mean, I'm going to say if I had to compare these two snacks,
consistency is the main issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Top quality cinnamon melts versus top quality caramel apple empanada.
Cinnamon melts any day of the week.
Wow.
But
quick.
Overall, average cinnamon melts,
yeah,
I would put below the average empanada.
Okay. That makes sense.
If that helps you.
It does a little bit. Should we jump in?
Let's do it.
How do you attack these? Do you go like corner first? Or do you go like a 3-year-old who's eating their first sandwich and just dive straight into the long end?
You do that, and we'll see how that goes.
Wow.
That caramel.
You know what?
That goo.
I think it's the crust that really does it for me. That
Every
slightly
bit of
fried,
it.
It's just so
The
good.
crust is like the perfect amount of...
Now, I want to put this up against my stand-up for our snacks so far on this series. I think was the Burger King Dutch apple pie.
Yeah.
And I would like to go head-to-head. I'd like to get another slice of that and compare it with this, because this is just damn good. One thing about this is, compared to that apple pie, much more portable, easier to eat on the go. No utensils needed.
Yeah. I've eaten so many of these in my car on my lunch break at work when I was like 19.
Crying.
Usually
Nobody would eat lunch with you.
Yes. And then those last bites are like the end of an ice cream cone when you have all that melted ice cream all in one bite with the cone. I mean, it's just like...
It's so good.
It just encapsulates what I love about this so much.
You know, after eating those fries and the fries supreme, my stomach was already doing a bit of a somersault, and I thought, you know what? Take a couple bites of the caramel apple empanada, take it easy. You already got enough nacho cheese in there. Your lactose intolerance is going to be off the charts. You don't need a bunch of sweets and sugars. I finished mine before Nathan finished his.
The only thing that's supreme is the caramel apple empanada.
It's like they just do it right.
So now that we've talked about this thing that I love, let me talk about this thing that I hate, which is the plot of this film.
Okay.
I'm going to walk you through, this story. So the villains basically devise a plan to get one particular hard drive. The man who owns this hard drive also owns the largest building in the world.
Sure does.
And so these people want his hard drive. And as they say repeatedly, if you want something from somebody, you have to find their weakness. You gotta
figure out what they like.
If you want something from Dwayne Johnson, you've gotta kidnap his daughter and make him give it to you.
That's the only way I've ever gotten him to pay me back for anything.
This guy, this building owner, clearly loves his building so much that if you set his building on fire and disable its fire safety systems, he will then be compelled to give you this hard drive.
Yeah.
And clearly, the owner of the building he seems pretty unfazed about the building burning down. As soon as it starts, he's just like, yeah, we're fine.
Well, I will say in his defense, he doesn't know at that point that they have control of the fire systems. He thinks it's a standard fire, and he knows his building's got pretty good anti-fire technology.
True.
But even later on, yes, still not worried. I assume he has just ridiculous amounts of money where he could build 6 of those.
Exactly. My point is that, even if this building burns down, that's not the end of this guy's world.
Yeah.
But this is supposed to be, this act of burning down the building is supposed to be enough to get him to hand over this very valuable hard drive. And, by the way, the hard drive, it's this, original copy of this, list of transactions, right? And if the villains get a hold of this original hard drive, has to be the original one.
Yeah.
They get a hold of that one, they can reverse engineer the technology and, undo this list of transactions, whatever. So it's very important for them to get this original hard drive.
Yeah.
And so this original hard drive is not in this fortified bunker. He doesn't need it. He has copies that have the exact same list. He doesn't need to be able to readily access this original hard drive. Yet it's in this building which they're burning down. Again, to get him to give them the hard drive.
I think it's, if you kidnap my daughter, I don't have one, but hypothetically, if you kidnap my daughter and you say, I'm going to kill your daughter unless you give me something, I'll be like, here, take it. I want my daughter back. If you take my building and stand out front of it and say, I'm not going to let you in until you do what I say, I'm going to say, that's fine. It's a building.
Right.
It's just a building.
So early on in the film, you mentioned the Dwayne Johnson's SWAT team and the guy who he was very close to. So this movie takes place 10 plus years after that scene, and now his one of his brothers on the SWAT team is now working with criminals to undermine this building, and I'm just
you gotta get by.
The situation that led to this is just so ridiculously complex. Like, so Ben, Dwayne Johnson's friend,
Yeah.
he tricks Dwayne Johnson into taking on this job as being this like safety assessor for the building.
He did.
So Ben works with the building owner.
Chow.
Right.
Who will
and
be called Chow.
He was put in a position where he like, and he knew, all right, these guys are looking for someone to assess their safety. I know somebody who does that exact thing, and I have a personal vendetta against him, and these criminals are going to pay me to bring this guy in so that they can can rob him.
Get a tablet.
Like it's just this like perfect storm of incredibly like complex storylines.
Ben's mad at him because he was blown up in the same place that Dwayne lost his leg, and he blames Dwayne for that. But I think the main issue I take it with is like, you can get anybody to do this job, and you can so the security assessment goes with plans, and they give them a tablet, which is basically access to everything.
Yeah, and because they give their contractors complete
total
access to every aspect
after
of the
a
building.
5-minute presentation.
Like you wouldn't even give like a vice president that much power.
No,
he's just a safety contractor.
But it's like you could have gotten anyone other than Dwayne to do that, stolen it, used facial recognition to get into the system, and been fine. And then just, you know what? Settled your stuff with Dwayne on the side.
Right.
Like,
it's like this.
Really?
It's this intersection of
Ben's
of
just
plot lines.
He's an efficient man. He's thinking, I can knock this like 2 out with 1 stone.
He's like, wait a second, this is really convenient.
Yeah.
That my friend also does this. And so, like, I thought early on that like this Ben guy was going to be the main villain.
Yeah.
But like, cause like right off the bat, like a minute after you meet him, you turn to me in the theater and you're like, well, I bet that guy's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's really obvious.
You know he's not going to be good. You know he's not.
Which, by the way, I won't give spoilers for any other movies, but this is like the 3rd movie in a month that I've seen in theaters where like a character is introduced early on and they seem like a benevolent, good person, and then like you quickly learn that they're actually evil. Just like such an overdone.
I mean, how else are you going to do it? You can't just be like, oh, here's the villain.
Okay, obviously not every movie does this. Like it's a very specific movie trope that I've just seen a lot lately.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Ben was kind of in a sticky situation in his defense. He lost some stuff, some parts of his body, it seemed. A lot of his pride. Didn't have a good job lined up. The Rock even at one point is like just really laying it on him too when they're on a boat. He's like, I don't know what I'd be without my family or my kids. I'd be totally lost. And Ben's like, you'd be me. And the Rock's just like, oh, fuck. Oh, shit.
Okay, did you get a vibe when Ben and Dwayne Johnson meet in the building with Dwayne's wife and kids? There's like this really weird vibe that like Ben wants to like be with his wife.
I think that's just kind of the vibe that actor gives off, because I've seen him in other things, and I always feel that way about him. He was in Weeds, and I think that's what really embedded it for me. He was in Weeds, and he just has sex with everyone. He's like an Israeli weed provider, but he's really ripped and good looking, so everyone just hooks up with him.
Like that's what instantly like set off my like as soon as we meet him, I'm like, I feel like he wants to have an affair with his wife.
Also, Nev Campbell just has those eyes that kind of give off that vibe too. Because even when she met the bad guys, she sees the bad guys like they're dressed up as maintenance guys, and they're like so clearly not maintenance guys. And they're like, "Oh, miss, we were checking the phones," and she was like, "The phones aren't even working." And they're like, "Well, they will be when we're done." And basically like wink at her. I was like, "Is everyone trying to have sex with his wife?"
The story is pretty terrible for the most part.
Yep.
Also, we're in spoilers. We can talk about like the climax. So we have this, the scene with all the mirrors, and of course, you're looking every which way because you don't know what's what.
But it's like,
and you think you're aiming your gun at this person, but really it's their reflection.
Yep.
And of course, it culminates in this moment where you're like, oh no, this is it. The villain's gonna drop the daughter or kill Dwayne Johnson. And then he says, I'm behind you.
Guess what?
Okay. Why did he wait so long? He was just standing there behind him with a gun, and he dropped the gun.
He likes to monologue. He's a monologuer.
He could have used the gun at any point during that, but instead he plays along. And then he kicks him in the back while he's holding the daughter, and he has to go grab the daughter. It was like one of the worst possible ways you could have handled that situation.
I think the worst part about it is, too, A, the fact that that stupid room even exists, but B, like during those scenes, you don't know what's going on. Because it's like, it is like a literal funhouse of mirrors.
Yeah.
And it's just so annoying because it's like, oh, here's somebody. They do the same thing 10 times with different characters. Like, oh, somebody ran by, let me get them. And it's like, oh, nope, reflection. Oh, so there's another couple of characters over here, and they do the same thing. Let me shoot that screen. And it's just like 3 minutes of that, and I was like, we get it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of screens.
It's a cool visual for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And it just gets old.
It does. It truly does. I will say, after that part where he says, I'm behind you, and Nev Campbell, in the most frustrating way possible, learns to use an iPad, which we can get back to. I did like when The Rock thought he was going to die with his daughter. I thought that was actually a kind of a touching moment, you know? It was pretty well acted there.
And that's kind of what I was referring to earlier on when I said, like, if this storyline was just less dumb, I think those, like, emotional moments actually would have worked really well.
Yeah.
But, like, I just kept being taken out of the movie and being like, this is just so stupid.
Yep.
And, like, the moment where he's holding his daughter thinking he's about to die, that was pretty good. And also, I liked the moment when he was reunited with his family on the ground. And he kind of, like he's looking for his wife and
frantically
son,
searching,
and he finally sees her. And instead of this generic like run up and hug her, he like stops and just like gently closes his eyes because he's like, everything is okay.
Yeah,
and that was actually pretty good.
I thought it was.
Those moments hit me a little bit, but like they could have been really powerful.
Yeah,
had the rest of this movie not just been so dumb.
The part that ruined it when he was on the top of the burning building and. He thinks he's going to die. It's cut between that and Nev Campbell trying to use a goddamn iPad
just pushing
and just
buttons.
Like, I don't know. And it's like, don't ask for help by the entire surveillance operation around you. Why don't you just take that little iPad? And like, she's going through every option. It was like watching my mom try to use the internet the first time I teach her. And then even when like redo all settings and like engage fire, she's like, where's that button? Which one do I click? And it was like, oh my god, the building is burning. Hit it. Just hit the button.
And so we mentioned the moment early on when there's like this weird conversation about, hey, turn your phone off and on again. And of course that part, that comes back at the very end when she reboots the tablet. But like the moment of her rebooting the tablet was still just like, it was so bad because it's just that she happened to find a button that said that. Yeah. What would have actually maybe been a little better is if like maybe she's frantically doing this and then she realized and thought of it and was like, wait, reboot it. And then maybe there's just like a button on like a power button on the side and she rebooted it. That would actually like be kind of like funny and make a little more sense.
I agree.
But she just like happens upon this button after like trying to go through every menu.
And I think again, like it is so nonsensical. A lot of this movie is, but A, the fact that they give this iPad to the contractor.
Yeah. B,
the fact that it takes one facial recognition moment. And it is apparently unlocked forever. It's got a magnetic screen on the front, like a nice iPad holder or something like that. That most of the time when that shuts, it's relocking. Every phone or tablet I know relocks after a certain period of time, but the one for the security of the tallest building in the world just remains unlocked.
Building on Earth
remains unlocked forever. It's like, oh, we got his face. Let's go.
And and the girl is going to shoot him after he does that. I'm like, even like, it's stupid that like the people who wrote this movie made it so that you only had to unlock it once. But like, why would a character even make that assumption? Mm-hmm. Like, your iPhone doesn't even work that way.
Yeah.
Why would the tablet work that way? Yeah. And then she later on has the help of this programmer who like hacks the tablet and so that he's the only one who can stop it.
Yep. And then
why would you not keep him alive and just have him like have a guy point a gun to his head until the whole thing's done with? Like,
think.
Why would you do that?
She was pretty merciless.
It's just those moments are purely for like cinematic effect.
Yeah.
And also just so stupid. It's so stupid.
I mean, a lot of this movie is strictly for cinematic effect. I will say one thing early on is when they're getting ready, the building's on fire, and they're like, "We've waited as long as we could. We need to go." And he's like, "Ready the helicopter." And the most precarious helicopter pad is like ejected from the side of the building, like two tiny little paths out there that it just looks so unstable. I was like, "This is the finest building in the world. You're not going to have like a sturdy helipad up there." I didn't like that.
And then the moment where one of the good guys is on the ground, you think he's dead, and then he picks up his gun and like with his pistol from like 60 feet away shoots the pilot.
Yeah.
And like, what happened was like the pilot was shot, so then the helicopter goes out of control and it blows up, and then like the the building owner is able to escape. Like, it worked out. But,
Yeah.
like, if you're that guy in that moment and you've got one shot, are you really going to aim for the pilot in the helicopter that far away?
Shot the
Just
main
shoot the
bad
guy who's aiming his machine gun
Yeah.
at your friend.
Yeah, I 100%. I mean, credit to them. I did not think he was going to shoot the pilot.
Right.
The twist I did not
He's
see
like,
coming.
if I just do this right, this helicopter will go out of control.
Yeah.
And
I
we
mean,
will solve the situation.
In my head, I was thinking like, oh, he just wants to stop them from flying away, and I was like, but
then
they
what
have
if,
parachutes
what if the helicopter flies out of control any other direction and the helicopter is gone?
and kills like 30 civilians in a crash.
Like, that pilot is the least of your concerns.
Speaking of civilians, though, one of my favorite parts, which I think was just footage of people watching this movie being made, was the constant shots of people like cheering for Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Every time he like would grab a ledge, it would cut to like news coverage, and they're just these people in the streets like, ah, yay!
Yeah, like it's completely unnecessary.
It is.
Like, it's basically serving the same function that like a laugh track does in a sitcom. Like, they're saying, hey, you watching this, you might not think this is like worth applauding and being happy about, but it is because these people are doing
Check it out. And I think the whole reason he is on the news is because he becomes a wanted man. They think he started this fire, he's the one who's behind it. But it's like, who gave him that info? And B, they could have just skipped that whole part and like just had it be him trying to rescue his family from the building.
Yeah.
Like, there was no reason to make him a wanted man.
And so like the media thinks that he's this wanted man, and so like that's all anybody knows about this as they're watching TV is like, oh, this guy is wanted. He may have been the one who caused this.
And people are still cheering him
on. They don't know anything about the situation. Like, nobody has any idea that it's his family in there and that he's a good guy or any of that.
They just think he's a lunatic,
but it's like
climbing a building.
But it's just fun to watch. Which I guess now that you say it, that really is like people watching this movie. It's like, I don't know what's going on, but this is fun to watch.
But
I'll watch this.
God, he's climbing that crane. Look at that. Oh, now he's climbing that building. Oh, now he's jumping through giant turbines. Like,
I need to stop paying attention to the details.
He's clearly. But it's like he could have just been trying to save his family. The cops could have been trying to help him because he's a wanted man. But then the second he gets down on the ground and like lands with his family, they're just like, "Good day, sir. You're free to go." Like, nobody asks him any questions. The movie ends obnoxiously abruptly.
It's kind of like while he's a wanted man, it's kind of this like Batman style. Like, you know, he's the good guy.
Justice.
People like him, but like the police are after him.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as it's over, it's like we don't have to deal with any of those repercussions because all you're here for is to see him save his family, and that's done. So credits.
Yep. Let's go to credits. No follow-up questions. No paperwork we need you to fill out or anything.
There's a moment that you and I both laughed out loud at, which is when he's with like the
head detective guy.
Yeah, he's with the government, and he says he walks over to Dwayne Johnson and his family.
He actually stays about, I'd say, 12 feet
away.
Oh
yeah, he's like an uncomfortable distance away, and he says, "Will Sawyer, glad to meet you," or like something like that. Like, it's literally one sentence, and then
he goes, "Will Sawyer, glad to meet you." And he goes, "That's one hell of a family you have there," or something.
Oh,
like that.
right, yeah. He like compliments his family, and then I think Dwayne Johnson just like nods,
he goes,
or like,
"I'm a lucky man."
Yeah, he just says like a one-liner, and the guy just walks away,
turns around.
He has no interest in the situation.
Head detective, who like 20 minutes ago was like thinking he was still the one who started the fire,
right?
And his assistant was like, "This all seems fishy."
You're right, like, yeah, and he's like, you know what, my shift was supposed to be over like 6 hours ago, really so I'm gonna get out of here.
It just seemed like everyone at that point was just like, well, let that building burn. We're all gonna head home now. It's over, because the guy landed on the ground. Very weird ending. I definitely thought there would be another scene after that.
Yeah, I mean, I was waiting for like an after credits little post scene because I was just like, well, that's it, I guess. Is there anything else you want to say before we tie things up today?
No. It's so unrealistic. The beatings and the punches to the head, the falls, his muscles would have just been 100% exhausted. It is so unrealistic, the feats of strength and just of what the human body can do in this movie, that only The Rock could pull it off.
Right, only The Rock can do.
Because nobody else... he gets like a stab in his arm like 10 minutes into this movie, And the guy's like, you're going to need stitches. That's really bad. And then he still just like pulls himself up a skyscraper. And it's like, what the hell is going on?
There's got to be blood just like gushing out of his body.
And then, I want to know how much duct tape paid him. Big duct tape paid him to use duct tape in 13 different scenes in this movie. And literally say to himself, if you can't fix it with duct tape, you're not using enough duct tape.
Are you familiar with the show Red Green?
I am, actually. Yeah.
Those lines were straight out of a Red Green
100%.
episode.
100%.
He's just making jokes about how duct tape can do anything, and he's by himself. He's not even like with other characters.
Nope.
He's to the camera talking about how important duct tape is.
That's like, there's so many things he says like that, though. Like, just.
I'm like, I know it's for comedic effect, but I'm like, it's just ridiculous. Like, it's not even funny. It's just. It's absurd.
And like at one point he's like digging through a toolbox after he gets stabbed in the heart because again his body is like bulletproof. He takes a shard of the building in his heart and he's like digging through this random toolbox that he stumbles across on a floor that's apparently still under construction or something, and just finds a fifth of vodka conveniently in the bottom of the toolbox. Like, thank God for that alcoholic repairman. Let me clean my wounds with it. And that's when he stops digging through the toolbox. When he finds the fifth of vodka. It's like, oh, this is what I was looking for. Now I'm going to be okay. Takes a big swig of it, though, so props to him.
The scene where he jumps off the crane onto the building.
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple police officers standing right behind him with a totally straight shot while he's running away. They think that this guy set the building on fire, and now he's, like, hobbling down a crane.
Yeah.
He's not, like, zigzagging. He's not jumping. They could easily shoot him.
There were many times he should have been shot in this movie.
And then he makes it into the building and then just, like, stands in, like, the window.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's helicopters. People are trying to get him, and he just stands there for, like, a nice shot.
It was a nice shot. The captain does give them a hold your fire at one point, but not everybody did. That and now I forgot about. Oh, he's swinging while he's on the crane, and he's like trying to figure out how to get it to the building. He swings like the hook, like he brings the hook back, and then he sends it out really fast. And he lands this giant hook, boom, on the floor of the building. And I thought, great, leave it there, go climb down the rope, and go into it. But he feels the need to pull it in a little bit, so it like hooks onto the building, and like so much tension is created. Instead of just like having a perfect thing over there. And then it falls, inevitably. But it was just like, oh my God, man. He just made it so hard for himself,
This movie kind of gave me an epiphany about action movies.
Mm.
And it's like a really good action movie is one where like our lead characters are smart. Like they are, they like maybe they're like strong or like highly skilled, but but most importantly, they're smart.
Yeah.
And they can just outmaneuver the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But like
duct tape and cranes don't do that for you.
But like most action movies, or at least like all of like the mediocre and bad action movies, are like the characters have to do dumb things because it puts them in situations that are fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like if they like in a bad movie, if the character did the smart thing at every given opportunity, the movie would be really boring.
That's true.
Like if Dwayne Johnson didn't do things like pull the crane in or like decide to tie his rope onto like a 2-foot long antenna.
Not recommended.
Like, if he didn't make all these really like questionable decisions, he wouldn't have put himself in these situations that were actually really entertaining.
That's very true. That is very true. Man, just what a movie.
All right, we could go on forever, but you can find all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Anchor.fm, and pretty much wherever else you find your podcasts.
You can also follow us on Instagram. Find us on the good old FB, as the kids are calling it, at Fast Food Film Friends. We do have a Twitter in the works, also at Fast Food Film Friends. That should be up and running in the next couple months here, once we get the interns paid. But until then, drop us a line, tell us what you want us to eat or see, or both.
And until then,
farewell.